Chapter 897, Could Tangning satisfy him? On the night that Kwanzai ran away from his engagement party, Long Ji also gave Zai Hanmo a phone call. I've already looked into the matter that you asked me about earlier. The person that's replacing Zhu King is the station manager's son. It seems he has the intention to give all the best programs to his son, so Zhu King was sacrificed in the process. I don't think Zhu King can be replaced, Zai Hanmo said with a trace of anger. After so many years, the big adventure has already accumulated a huge fan base. If they replace the host, the audience will complain at first, but after they make a public statement to clarify the matter, the audience will quickly forget the person that made the show popular in the first place, Long Ji explained realistically. Long Ji, without Zhu King around, I don't think I can continue with the show. Long Ji understood how Zai Hanmo felt, but she had only signed her contract with the big adventure not too long ago. If she was to cancel the contract now, not only would she destroy the career she rebuilt, she would also need to pay compensation. Don't act impulsively, Long Ji. Even someone with a status like Zhu King was kicked aside so easily. How am I supposed to survive? I am simply a novelty for now because I come from superstar media and am managed by Tangning, but someday, I will end up just like Zhu. Zai Hanmo was simply being honest. You should speak to Tangning about this. I can't call the shots, Long Ji suggested. After Zai Hanmo heard this, she nodded her head. At least, before Zhu King left, she had to control her emotions. In reality, Tangning already made preparations for this matter. After all, she was famous for appreciating true talent. So, the next morning, she didn't even head to the set of The Ant Queen. Instead, she asked Lin Qian to help her organize a meeting with Zhu King. Of course, she did this without Zai Hanmo knowing. I am honored to meet with the infamous Tangning. Zhu King shook Tangning's hand politely. It seems, Zhu was already expecting to see me. Tangning smiled. Because I know that you are fond of talented people. Most importantly, I know you don't want Zai Hanmo to lose the popularity she accumulated in one night. Zhu King understood Tangning well. Because of this, the two are able to speak straightforwardly. Hyrule has invested in a lot of programs and has a good relationship with a lot of television stations. Some people may think that changing a host on a variety show is nothing, but I know that once someone has this thought, the program will definitely be on a downward slope. A certain television channel has a new program that is looking for a suitable host. Since the timing is right, I wonder if Zhu would be interested. As soon as Zhu King looked at the information in Tangning's hands, he realized that she wanted him to move to the enemy camp. When a famous host leaves their current channel and moves to a competing one, it means that a lot of problems exist. What about Hanmo? Zhu King asked. You go ahead first. I have other arrangements for her. Zhu King smiled and nodded his head. He realized that Tangning was really bold when it came to handling matters like this. No wonder the artists in her hands all became famous, one after another. Afterwards, Zhu King returned to the television station. At this time, Zai Hanmo was waiting for him. Zhu, are you planning to leave in such an unjust way? I have no choice, Zhu King replied calmly. As Tangning had told him not to tell Zai Hanmo about his plans, he did not tell her that he was moving to a competing channel. But, what am I supposed to do when you're not around? Just focus on filming the program. Don't disappoint me, Zhu King instructed. Zai Hanmo felt completely helpless. It wasn't easy for her to develop a fighting spirit, but now, she had to continue working for a heartless television station. Worst of all, she had to feign ignorance even though she knew the real reason behind it all. Zhu King looked at Zai Hanmo's expression and smiled to himself. He then returned to his waiting room, leaving Zai Hanmo alone in the corridor. Tangning did not announce that she was working with Zhu King because it wasn't the right time yet. She simply felt that the station manager was stupid for giving up on such a talented host and handing him over to them. Did he really think that his son was at the same level as Zhu King? This was definitely not a decision made by a wise station manager. Perhaps, his son convinced him with eloquent words. Either way, he had let someone else benefit. As a result, Superstar Media grew even stronger. After dealing with Zhu King's matter, Tangning returned to the set of The Ant Queen. But, The atmosphere on set was like she had stepped foot into a community of stalkers, because practically the entire crew were fans of Mo Ting's. Even the problematic Kate was silenced by Mo Ting's presence. As soon as Kiao Sin saw Tang Ning arrive, he immediately said to her, "Here to visit." "I never expected President Mo's acting to be so good." "Haven't you considered whose husband he is?" "President Mo truly loves you." From the moment he stepped foot on set, he hasn't taken a single glance at another woman. Even when he acts with Kate, he simply does what's needed of him and turns cold and unapproachable as soon as he's done. Kiao Sin sighed. "So, you don't need to worry. He only has you in his heart. You don't need to be suspicious of anything." "I'm well aware of my own husband," Tang Ning replied confidently. Soon, Mo Ting spotted Tang Ning and naturally walked over to her side. "You didn't need to come this far." "It's fine." Tang Ning wrapped her arms around Mo Ting and tightened them around his waist. "I simply wanted to see you." Not too far away, Kate saw the affection between Tang Ning and Mo Ting and immediately turned to question the staff beside her. Fortunately, the staff could understand English. "What's their relationship? Isn't Miss Kate aware?" "They are an extremely loving married couple." "If it wasn't because Ningji is pregnant, the female lead in this film may not have been yours." Kate was not angered by the staff's words. She was simply curious how a man could turn a blind eye to something beautiful in front of him and choose a pregnant woman instead. Could Tang Ning satisfy him? She refused to believe a man could remain abstinent, especially since overseas, there were plenty of men that fooled around behind their wives' backs. So, everyone would have to wait and see what she'd do. After all, Mo Ting still had a good few months on set. However, even though Mo Ting was supposed to be on set for a few months, he still returned home every day. Chapter 898, You're Fired. Apart from filming, Mo Ting still had to look through documents in the study room until late into the night. Although he had distributed a lot of his responsibilities around the company, he still needed to have things under his control, otherwise, the shareholders of Hyrule would not be pleased. Kate couldn't find any opportunity to get close to Mo Ting whatsoever, but, she did remember that there was a bed scene in the script, so, she could only wait for that day to come. Soon, the incident at the Quan family was revealed to the public. The fact that Quan Zai had run away from his own engagement, caused the shares for Quan Court to immediately drop. Now that their reputation was ruined, it would take a while to recover. Meanwhile, Zhu Qing's matter was also causing a commotion. These days, Beijing was much too noisy with a new episode of drama every day. At this time, Zai Hanmo was notified to attend the next filming for The Big Adventure. But, she had no desire to work with them anymore. However, she couldn't find a good enough reason to leave. After all, Tang Ning had already invested a lot of energy on her, so she didn't want to be a disappointment. Soon, the television station notified everyone to attend a meeting. Everyone avoided Zhu Qing because circumstances had changed for him. Even though they didn't want to do it, they still needed to survive and couldn't afford to offend the station manager's son. I'm sure all of you have heard that the next episode of The Big Adventure will be hosted by me. So, I would like to take this opportunity to share my experiences with everyone. The station manager's son stood in front of everyone and started to go through all the awards he had received overseas. I'm sure, under my leadership, The Big Adventure will continue to shine. How is he so confident? Zai Hanmo wondered. Hanmo, are you doubting my abilities? The man seemed to have noticed Zai Hanmo's displeased expression, so he singled her out. Zai Hanmo laughed and shook her head. Please continue. To be honest, Zhugi's style is completely out of date. The world now belongs to the young people. If we want to maintain high ratings, we need to do something new. So, the next episode of The Big Adventure will experience some changes and will be more fun. Was he planning to make changes to a variety show without first doing any publicity? The old host hadn't even handed over to the new host yet. So, what he was doing was practically suicide. Did the station manager lose his mind? Everyone within the industry knew that this young man had done something taboo. But, he had a strong backing, so he did whatever he wanted. Actually, Zai Hanmo could tell that he was impatiently trying to change the program to his style. Don't worry, with help from the entire production team, I'm confident that the new and improved show will be more popular than the previous one. Hanmo reached her limit. She wanted to leave, but the man continued to talk big. Was he trying to make everyone hate him? In the end, the meeting lasted for an extremely long time. Just explaining his experiences took the young man an entire hour to go through. So, the staff were completely miserable. Actually, the reason for the young man's confidence was because his father had spoken to a team of experts that analyzed his idea and confirmed that it was feasible. Since the program was changing its hosting style, why not do it all at once and give the audience a fresh experience? Eventually, the staff left the meeting room, completely exhausted. But, at this time, Zhu King was seen exiting the station manager's office. Everyone assumed that he was there to hand over some documents. So, they immediately lit up and surrounded him happily. Zhu King, did you guys have a meeting? Zhu King asked casually as he smiled at everyone. Keep up the good work. Are you going home now? Someone asked as they noticed the filing case in his hands. Of course, Hanmo was also amongst the crowd. I've officially completed my handover. From today onwards, I no longer belong to this station. You guys need to behave, Zhu King said to the crowd. You need to take special care of Hanmo as well. She still has a lot to learn. I will naturally take care of my subordinates. You don't need to worry about that, the station manager's son said with hostility as he stepped out of the meeting room. Good. I heard that the Big Adventure plans to go through an entire facelift. Good luck with that. After speaking, Zhu King turned to leave. But, the staff couldn't bear to see him go. He had personally made the Big Adventure famous, yet the station manager got rid of him ungratefully. It was such a cold-hearted move. It was bad enough that the station manager favored his own relative. The young man even humiliated Zhu King. Everyone felt bad for Zhu King. Zhu King, it's fine, Zhu King chuckled. It's not like I have nowhere else to go after leaving this station. Sure, you have other places to turn to, but to hand over a program that you created at its highest point must be difficult to accept, the young man ridiculed. Hanmo almost rolled her eyes in frustration. Really? Why were people that studied abroad so conceited? It can't be helped. Who told you not to have a station manager, father? After hearing this, Hanmo couldn't endure any longer and directly threw a slap across the man's face. I've never seen a thief act so confident. Did you know that you are truly a piece of trash? You better stop mentioning your dad so shamelessly. Take a good look around you. Not a single person below you is truly convinced by you. Do you really think you're the best in the world? Hanmo, how dare you hit me? The young man yelled at Hanmo. I'm hitting you because I want to warn you that the program will go to shit after you give it a facelift. You just wait and see. Hanmo, you are fired. I gladly accept. Everyone heard it, right? You personally said you'd fire me, so please don't forget to transfer me my pay. Hanmo felt a lot better as she felt herself relax. Zhu King, since I'm also fired, let's leave together. It seemed Tang Ning truly understood her artist and knew that she would cause trouble and not last much longer on the Big Adventure. So, Zhu King smiled and replied, let's go. Just before she left, Hanmo glared at the station manager's son one last time and left under everyone's approving gaze. She walked out with her chest held high, oblivious to the fact that she had put herself in trouble. But, of course, Hanmo could afford to shoulder this responsibility because this was what she truly wanted to do. What if they hold you liable for leaving like this? As an artist, I feel that there are some things that are more important than fame and fortune, Hanmo replied. I'm sure Tang Ning lives this way too. A person's integrity is more important than anything else. In that case, have you thought about your future? Your career just restarted. Chapter 899. She had deliberately set this trap. I trust that Tang Ning will lay out a new path for me, because that's how amazing she is. Hanmo did not doubt this at all. Plus, I did this for the sake of justice. Seeing the confidence on her face, Zhu King let out a laugh. Since we're both unemployed now, may I invite Miss Xia to a casual meal? Hanmo naturally nodded her head. The two selected a relatively hidden restaurant to eat in. But, as soon as Hanmo sat down, a 2-year-old slipped into a nearby fountain. Although the water was shallow, the child began to cry. Hanmo watched as Zhu King immediately rushed over and swept the child up in his arms. At this time, a rich lady ran over in a panic. Baby, Are you okay? Zhu King glared at the woman angrily. Your child is still small. I suggest you don't let him leave your sight again. The woman was a little surprised as she carried her child away. This was the first time that Zai Hanmo saw Zhu King's emotions being triggered. Do you like children a lot? Zai Hanmo asked as Zhu King sat back down. Not particularly, Zhu King replied gently before he changed the subject. Of course. Zai Hanmo could immediately sense that Zhu King was a person with a story. On the surface, he appeared friendly and took good care of the people around him, but in reality, he was very cautious of people. But, Zai Hanmo did not try to dig up his secrets. It was easier to get along with him this way. Soon, Tang Ning received news that Zai Hanmo had caused a scene at the big adventure. Of course, she expected this to happen. If Zai Hanmo actually stuck it out and continued on the show, then she would have been a disappointment. There was one thing that Tang Ning had to admit. She had deliberately set this trap. Apart from wanting to see if Zai Hanmo was worth her efforts, the reason why Tang Ning didn't tell Zai Hanmo beforehand was because she wanted Zai Hanmo to give a realistic reaction. And reality proved that Zai Hanmo was indeed worthy of being a part of superstar media. As someone that suffered slandering for an extended period of time, Zai Hanmo was someone that was cautious about everything she did. But, from now on, Tang Ning wanted to turn her into someone that would no longer allow herself to be slandered. Previously, during the flood incident, the public had already been reintroduced to the real Zai Hanmo once. This time, it was the perfect opportunity to reinforce this new image. The station manager's son thought that Zai Hanmo was someone that had not established a solid footing in the industry yet. Since she dared to slap him in the face, he decided to take a photo of his swollen cheek and post it online. He wanted to use this incident to slander Zai Hanmo as well as create the image of a victim for himself. Unfortunately, superstar media was only one step behind. As soon as he posted up his photos, superstar media released an official apology on behalf of Zai Hanmo stating that she had accidentally lost control. But, the public believed that the difference between a man throwing a slap and a woman throwing a slap was that men did it to cause trouble, whereas women did it because of retaliation. She must have been bullied so badly that she had no choice. So, superstar media's swift apology further proved the public's speculation. Zai Hanmo definitely suffered immense bullying. Firstly, Zhu King was forced to leave. Afterwards, Zai Hanmo was caught hitting someone. I'm certain this happened because of a huge internal disagreement at the television station. It wasn't easy for Zai Hanmo to rebuild her popularity. I don't believe she would hit someone for no reason. That television station is completely shameless. Rumor has it that they are planning to give the big adventure a facelift as well. Let me declare it now. We are not going to watch the big adventure if Zhu King isn't in it. Let's boycott their channel. The station manager's son did not expect that his photo would receive so much backlash. In fact, every single comment was detrimental to the big adventure. If one was to look at the incident with Zhu King, this young man was a thief to begin with. But, not only did he not keep a low profile, he even offended him out in the open. So, Tang Ning didn't just make this move so that the big adventure would be boycotted, she also did it to put public opinion on Zhu King and Zai Hanmo's side. But, of course, this wasn't enough. Tang Ning was someone that planned much further and deeper. So, she gave Zhu King a phone call in private, to turn the tables. The enemy may claim that the two of you have a special relationship, or slander you in other ways. Zhu King, you've been in the industry for long enough. I'm sure you know what to do. Zhu King was a smart person, so he immediately understood Tang Ning's hint. Therefore, early the next morning, the news articles reported that Zhu King had been fired, but his mood was unaffected. In fact, he was seen having dinner with his family. On top of that, old news resurfaced about how he was previously caught strolling the streets hand in hand with a mysterious woman. Meanwhile, Tang Ning arranged for a famous social media influencer to cut and paste together a short video of Zai Hanmo's interviews where she had stated that she was single. This way, even if the television station tried to create a rumor, no one would believe it. The young man was stuck, but the station manager knew exactly what was happening. So, he called his son into the office to teach him a lesson. The fact that you were so lofty about joining the big adventure wasn't a huge issue, but why did you cling on to Zhu King and Zai Hanmo and not let them go? Pa, Aren't I allowed to teach a couple of artists a lesson? Zhu King was not an issue. After all, he's accumulated a lot of contracts over the years, but he hasn't matured. But, how dare you provoke Zai Hanmo? Do you know that everyone is scolding you at the moment? The station manager slammed his hands on the table angrily. But, all I see in the news is gossip about Zhu King. You're too young and naive. You still don't believe me? What you see isn't merely gossip. It's precautionary action against our slandering. He's not making any complaints or putting up a fight. He left the show casually and went off to spend his spare time with his family and girlfriend. If you try to stir up trouble for him, people will only view you as heartless, ungrateful and ruthless. So, that's enough. Simply focus on doing a good job with the big adventure. I've handed the entire show to you, so stop tormenting others. If you truly want to win against Zhu King, then you should show the world what you are capable of. The station manager was furious. If his son was even half as understanding as Zhu King, then he wouldn't have to worry so much. But, this rascal had no brains. The fact that he took over the big adventure was already a big enough blow to Zhu King. Yet, he didn't know how to be satisfied. You just wait and see. I'm going to make you view me in a different light. The station manager didn't have high hopes for his son. He simply hoped that he'd advance at a stable rate, and that was already enough for him. Soon, it was time to film the new episode of The Big Adventure. Although the show maintained its high quality with the help of the production crew, and they even invited a big-name guest, without Zhu King around, the show lost its original essence. Did the young man think that the audience was stupid? Chapter 900, A Huge Face Slap. Meanwhile, Zhu King secretly started on the set of another program and quickly signed a contract. However, he had one condition: he wanted Zai Hanmo to be his hosting partner. So, the other party happily accepted. Although the station manager's son wasn't thinking straight, he still had his father to back him up. To be able to get to his position and dismiss Zhu King so easily, the station manager definitely had his own capabilities and methods. So, the old man personally planned out the publicity for his son's program. As a result, in the newest series of promotional trailers, the station manager fed on the feeble minds of students and invited a famous young idol actress and actor and put a lot of effort into the editing. Soon, The Big Adventure gained back a lot of popularity. After all, even if the fans didn't like the program, they still wanted to support their idols. The old man was going to prove that The Big Adventure could still produce legendary results even without Zhu King. But, another problem that he was worried about was that Zhu King didn't appear to hinder anyone at the station, but he actually posed a huge threat. Tang Ning saw the results produced by the station manager and acknowledged that he was a worthy opponent. At least, he was much better than his brainless son. But, what the old man was doing was practically killing the goose that laid the golden eggs. Zhu King was a sentimental person. At least, over the years that he spent at the television station, he had no other thoughts but to produce a good program. However, the station manager was too paranoid and couldn't stand that Zhu King was receiving more and more respect. So, he decided to hand the program over to his lackluster son. But, whether his son would live up to the role would depend on the first round of ratings. It wasn't too bad the way that things turned out. Meanwhile, a talk show on another television channel was currently the biggest competitor for The Big Adventure. This show was called I Have Big News for You. Every episode focused on a hot topic and there were plenty of opinions as well as involvement from celebrities. But, because of Zhu King, the show had been suppressed for a long time. So, some people began to wonder if The Big Adventure would hold its dominance without Zhu King around. The answer would be revealed after the newest episode. But, according to the statistics, the ratings for The Big Adventure still needed to be a little higher. Although the show couldn't compare to when Zhu King was around, The Big Adventure still had its advantage as a dot. Unfortunately, Tang Ning had no intention of letting them have their way. I Have Big News for You invited a mystery guest halfway through every show to present everyone with a topic of discussion. So, during prime time, all the viewers that were watching The Big Adventure ended up changing channels. Because, the guest that had arrived on the show, was none other than Zhu King. The audience went crazy. Zhu King had actually joined the enemy. For some reason, the audience was pleased to see this. This time, I Have Big News for You ended up receiving its highest ever viewership rating, surpassing The Big Adventure. Because of this, the internet also went crazy. WTF. This is so shocking. Zhu King went directly to the enemy camp. This is a huge face slap. Zhu King is black-bellied to the max. Even I was shocked. Zhu King used numbers to teach the Big Adventure lesson. Fact, I give full points to this counterattack. In the end, the station manager's son lost miserably. The next day, news of the ratings spread throughout Beijing and it was revealed that Zhu King had signed on with the enemy of the Big Adventure. After the old station manager saw the ratings for the latest episode of The Big Adventure, he let out a deep sigh. He was too careless to have trusted his useless son. Now that Zhu King had gone to work for the enemy, it was like they had given wings to a tiger. If Zhu King decided to host more than one program at a time, then not only The Big Adventure, but every other variety show would have no chance of survival. He had lost his gamble. In response, the station manager's son did not want to admit defeat. So, he ended up using the fact that Zhu King had debuted longer than him as an excuse. Lucky I didn't offend him too badly. Pa, you're worrying too much. Whenever something experiences a change, it will definitely go through an adjustment stage. Weren't you prepared for this? The young man scoffed. You're such a coward to be scared by something so little. But, Zhu King held onto his winning streak by accepting a position on a new program called Late Night 8 p.m. It was a show where he'd partake in hilarious missions with guest celebrities at 8 p.m. Zai Hanmo did not expect Zhu King to progress so quickly. After reading all the news, Zai Hanmo felt like she had fallen asleep and woken up to a completely different world. Soon after, she received a phone call from Zhu King. Come out. I'm taking you to sign a contract. Huh? Are you not willing to be my hosting partner? At that moment, Zai Hanmo finally realized that Tang Ning and Zhu King planned the whole thing and that everything was playing out of the palm of their hands. Of course, even though this was the case, the host of I Have Big News for You still ended up inviting Zhu King to dinner. After all, Zhu King helped make him famous, even though it meant that he'd be destroying his own creation. At this time, Tang Ning finally revealed the reason why Zai Hanmo hit the station manager's son. Over the years, Zhu King worked hard to make The Big Adventure into what it is today. But, a particular television station decided to get rid of its savior and replace him with a relative. So, Zhu King was directly eliminated. As everyone is aware, Hanmo is an impulsive person. So, as soon as she discovered how the production treated its loyal employee, she couldn't help but stick up for him. Therefore, we ended up with the photos that the station manager's son released. Since Zhu King and Hanmo have a teacher-student relationship, I decided to help them. I hope they cooperate well in their new program together. It wasn't the first time that Tang Ning had stepped out to speak the truth, so the public weren't surprised by her approach. Plus, the public acknowledged her words because they felt that she was trustworthy. As a result, Zai Hanmo and Zhu King received plenty of support from fans. The new program hasn't even started filming yet and Zai Hanmo is already being contacted by advertisers, Lin Qian said as she handed the advertising briefs to Tang Ning. Should we accept them? It's not the time for her to take on advertising deals. She should be placing all her focus on filming this new program. Tang Ning said this because she always considered the long term for her artists. Understood. Lin Qian nodded. By the way, how's things going with you and your military man? Tang Ning asked after she finished dealing with business. Why are you suddenly asking about me? Lin Qian's face flushed red. You should be more worried about how President Mo is doing on set.
Hit the like, thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening.